Welcome to The Grind. Before we get this episode started, if you could please take a minute to share us on whatever platform you're watching or listening on, we would greatly appreciate it. A share on Facebook, a retweet on Twitter, and a subscribe on YouTube would go a long way in extending our reach and engaging more App State wrestling fans. Thank you for your time. Here's your host, Dominic Parisi.
Thank you, JB. So tonight we have a wrestler that graduated in the early 2000s. He wrestled at App from 1999 to 2003. Before at App, he wrestled at 71st High School in Fayetteville, North Carolina. He took third as a sophomore, third as a junior, and second as a senior at the North Carolina State Tournament. And he also took 8th at Senior Nationals in Pittsburgh before it was held in Virginia Beach. While at App State, his freshman year, he started right out of the gate, finishing the year 17-13, taking second at the Southern Conference Tournament. His sophomore year started once again, going 19-5. Winning the Cornell invite, took third at the Carolina Open at UNC, and then won the Southern Conference Tournament, qualifying him for the NCAAs in Iowa City, Iowa, where he went 1-2. His junior year, he went 13-11, finishing third in the Carolina Open and third in the Southern Conference. And his senior year, he went 31-10 with the Keystone Classic and the Southern Conference Tournament, once again qualifying him for the NCAAs in Kansas City. He's a two-time Southern Conference champion, two-time NCAA qualifier, and lifelong supporter of the App State Wrestling program. Welcome to Beyond the Mat with Rich Caisse. Rich, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you being on. As I say to everyone, thanks for taking time out of your busy Monday to be on here to talk app wrestling for an hour. So thanks for being on. We'll jump into it. First question, as always, man, how'd you get started in the sport of wrestling? Take us all the way back to day one.
I started in the 8th grade. One of my buddies named Chris Brown kept trying to talk me into it when we were in middle school. And I thought I was going to be a basketball player. I think I was like probably 4'7" at the time. And so I knew it my sophomore year or my 7th grade year. And 8th grade rolled around and I weighed about 80 pounds and he kept talking me into it. And then I finally pulled the trigger, fell in love with it. All I knew how to do was a cow catcher. No, even my whole 8th grade year didn't know you could score a takedown by spinning around behind a guy. So.
Oh, you were one of those guys.
Yeah, coaching wasn't amazing, but I still fell in love with it. And then, the rest, I guess, is history.
Well, heck yeah, man. Well, that's good. Dang, you were a late bloomer then, starting in 8th grade. Was that in North Carolina when you started?
Yep. No, that was in the Florida Panhandle.
Oh, wow.
Area. I didn't wrestle in North Carolina until my senior year. I moved up. My dad was in the Air Force, and so we bounced around quite a bit. But I cut my teeth in the Panhandle, and my dad, he drove me all over the state. We're an hour earlier than the rest of the state. And so we're going to a tournament in Tampa. It's like 6 hours plus you lose an hour going east. And he's driving me there every weekend in the summertime so I could get better.
Wow. Very cool. So then let's jump right into your high school years, which was, 1 year right after you started in the sport of wrestling. So talk us through your freshman year and how that went. How was your freshman year of high school wrestling?
It was, a lot of humble pie. I started only started in duels because at that time, that was 96. You could go up 5 weight classes and then drop the next meet.
Yeah.
There's no rules on cutting, and we had a really, really solid lineup, and our 103 pounder, he just physically gifted, great wrestler. He beat me like 7 different times in wrestle offs. And so I kind of spot started as a freshman, and then, fell in love with freestyle, wrestled all summer, came back, and then I beat him for the 103 spot the next year. And then I just kept moving up 103, 112, 119.
Awesome. So then were you your sophomore year? That was your first. Yeah. Was that your first year placing at the state tournament?
Yeah, first year. I kind of, and I didn't know who anybody was really, and I had some pretty good success. Wrestling kind of in the Panhandle area. We went to some bigger tournaments, and I took some lumps, but finished second in the region as a sophomore. And then, that guy, actually the guy who beat me my sophomore year, he's still one of my good friends today. He was a transfer from Pennsylvania, and I got the first takedown on him. He couldn't even defend. All I could do really was double legs. That's all I shot. And then he just started kicking my ass. Every time I got on his legs, he was throwing me around with his hips. And his name's Eddie Akish. He now, successful salesman, but wrestled in Bloomsburg and Gardner.
Oh, nice.
But then he ended up finishing second in the state, and I got third, the next weekend. And then we kind of became buddies, and then kind of had a history all through high school of wrestling each other at all these different tournaments.
Nice. Little Bloomsburg shout out there. Had a coach, Josh Rosa, that was from Blooms. Shout out to him. He's back up in PA now, but cool. So then your junior, senior year, your last 2 years were, again, I think you said your junior year you took third, and then senior was second?
Yeah, I took third again. Had junior year of high school, I'd had a bad regional, and I got paired on the side of probably the best kid in the state at 112. And so he beat me in the semis, and then I just back for third. That I kind of learned a lot about positioning. it was just completely different from going up from 103 to 112. It seems like a small jump, but the way the guys could use their hips, the attention to detail, it was all there. And but I was happy to kind of eke out a third place finish there. And then I probably had the best summer of my life training. I was a match away from placing at Fargo that summer. I won the Junior Olympics in Hampton Roads, Virginia, and kind of just hit a nice groove. And then my dad calls me out of the blue. I'm staying at a campground in South Florida with one of my friends, and his dad owned a paving company. And so I'm laying asphalt all summer, living with him in his camper, and then going to all these tournaments. And so my dad calls me and says, "Hey, man, we've got orders to go to Fayetteville, North Carolina." And I'm freaking out because, my senior year. And then, we ended up meeting the coach, Dave Culbreth. He was the coach of the North Carolina Disney dual team. And so, my dad struck up a conversation with him there and told him we were coming in the area. And so I moved right into 71st, which at the time was, a powerhouse. So I was really, really blessed to be given that opportunity. Got in-state tuition to Appalachian because of that. That team, my senior year, was arguably one of the best. People throw it around, as far as North Carolina wrestling history. We broke the point record. Put 8 guys in the finals of state my senior year.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was
okay then. So did I get some info wrong? So your high school career wasn't all in North Carolina then?
Correct. I probably should have specified that, but I didn't know if it was super important.
Yeah. So then I said the 3 times you placed were in North Carolina at 71st and Fayetteville. So let's clear that up. So your first 2 placers was in Florida.
Yeah, in Rutherford High School in the Panhandle.
Okay. And then your senior year was here in North Carolina.
Right.
Cool. Very cool. Okay, nice. Yeah, so then yeah, you get in-state tuition at App. How'd you get recruited? What was that process like? Who reached out to you? How did you find App? I know everybody knows up here in Boone that Florida, a lot of Floridians come up this way. It's just how it is for some reason. Boone, North Carolina, it's like a brother sisterhood here between this town and the state of Florida. So how did you make your way up here? Did you know about Boone when you were in Florida or App State Wrestling? So give us the whole rundown on that process.
Well, I knew, I thought it was Appalachian State because Panhandle, we had a couple of guys who would go to the camp every summer.
Yeah.
And so when I was living in Florida, I knew about the school, I knew about the wrestling camp. And then when I finished my high school career, I thought, I had a lot of friends at NC State and it was close proximity to Fayetteville. And I really wanted to go there. And they had a really standout 125 pounder. And so I went on a recruiting trip, really liked it. They definitely were laying it on, but trying to tell me just to walk on and try to earn my money, and I kind of wasn't feeling that. And then I thought maybe I'll go to Carolina. And at the time, TJ Jaworski was recruiting me. Then Paul Mance was the head coach at Appalachian. He started giving me phone calls, and I didn't know if I wanted to go there, And then I went to at Senior Nationals. One of my good buddies, Mark Fee, I knew him through Florida wrestling, and I ran into him at Senior Nationals, and he's like, "Hey, man, where are you thinking about going to school?" And I told him all the places, and I said, Appalachian's recruiting me. He's like, "I think I'm going there." And immediately his dad, who's like, he's all, fired up. He's like, first thing he says, he's like, "Hey, Richie, give me your social security number." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, if I get your social security number," he's like, "I can put it in the system and you and Mark can be roommates." And I'm like, "Well, shit, I don't even know if I'm going there or not." Like, "No, you're going to go." So anyway, I ended up getting a recruiting trip to Appalachian. And one of my good buddies to this day, Kyle Spencer, took me out, showed me an awesome time. I can't give you all those details, but he kind of sold it to me. And, the next morning, I show up to talk to Mance, to talk turkey, and he's offering me money, and I'm excited. I didn't even try to bargain with him. I just said, "Oh yeah, cool. $2,000 done." So, but at the time it was only like 6,000 and some change to go to App. So that was, anyway, I felt really, really blessed that the way it all turned out.
Dang, man. That's
Every time
great.
I see Kyle, I always kind of, we joke around about it, but thanks, man. Thanks for getting me here.
Yeah, dang, that's awesome, man. I love hearing those stories about the recruiting process because it's always a good one. I mean, everybody we've had on here has got a great story about the recruiting process to come to App.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, the mountains. I had no idea really how beautiful it was. Never ventured into the mountains.
Yeah.
I'm walking around the campus with Mance, and I'm, dying from walking up and down the hills of the campus, and I just completely, just kind of fell in love with it right off the bat.
Heck yeah, man. Well, to everybody that's tuned in, we're talking to Rich Caisse here. Share this video, whatever platform you're watching on. We had Hank Harden has chimed in. He says another great wrestler from Florida at App. That is the place to go get great wrestlers. And then he asks Coach Bentley if he's listening. So again, share this video on whatever stream you're watching on. Help us get more viewers here. But we'll continue on. So you come to App, and you're here your freshman year. Let's hear the transition from high school to your freshman year at college, Division I wrestling. You started right out of the gate, so there's got to be a pretty big eye-opening transition there from high school wrestling to college Division I wrestling. So talk us through your freshman year at App.
Yeah, I definitely took a lot of lumps because we had a really, really tough 125 pounder. He was big. His name is Davey Blake. He was from Maryland. He beat me up, man. And like even in the black and gold, we scrapped. He definitely got the better of me. And then so we started traveling together to these early dual meets, and just coming in the room, I'm getting beat up by everybody. Right off the bat. Davey Blake's beat me up. There's a guy, Travis Drake's there. He transferred in from Anderson. He's kicking my butt in the room. And then I'm drilling. I remember this. This kind of was like the eye-opening experience. I'm drilling with this guy named Steve Winemko. And he's like, hey, man, you shoot your high crotches and your singles on the same side. I'm like, yeah, I can only shoot to this leg. He's like, man, you need to do something about that. And so immediately I'm like, okay, doing something wrong right off the bat. But so I started and I'm a lefty lead, but I'm right-handed. So it was kind of and my coach always made fun of me in high school because I could only shoot that single, and I could hit it on anybody. But after I wrestled them a couple of times, they figured me out. So I really had to develop a secondary attack. So that kind of happened through my freshman year. And anyway, fast forward, Davey Blake, he beats me in a wrestle off. He can't really get down to weight. So they take me to, we bring in Kent State. And it's for my first duel. And I'm wrestling a kid who's ranked, returning NCAA qualifier. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah.
Davey didn't make weight. So I'm getting thrown out there. And this guy looks like a gorilla. I mean, he's every bit of 125, chiseled. And I'm kicking his ass. I'm up like 5-1 going into the third. And I didn't know really how to, play the riding time game. And so my coaches are screaming at me. I'm almost about to lock up riding time. So I'm trying to ride him as long as I can. I end up holding on too long. And he reverses to my back and ends up beating me by 1.
Ugh.
So, yeah. So I'm thinking, let that one get away from me. And then we traveled to Buffalo. And that was a kind of a Christmas tradition. We always wrestled a tri-meet in Buffalo. And Davey Blake, he still got the starting spot. He couldn't get down to weight again. And he's huge. He's probably like 5'9". He looked like a 41-pounder. He didn't make it. So I'm in there, and we're wrestling Drexel, Buffalo, and Seton Hall. And I ended up going 3-0. And that was kind of a breakthrough event for me. And so after that, I think the coaches kind of made a decision. They bumped Davey up to 33, and then I stayed at 25 for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And, I had some marginal success. I kind of had my first real injury. I sprained my ankle pretty bad and then kind of nursed it and ended up hurting the other leg, overcompensating. And so I missed part of my freshman year and came back for the Southern Conference and ended up finishing second. And I lost to this kid. He probably had like 18 years of eligibility at Chattanooga. You know how they are. He ended up beating me in the finals. I think it ended up, that was probably his third SoCon title was when he beat me.
Huh. Okay. Well, that kind of leads into my next question. We'll get through your other 3 years of eligibility at App with some other questions coming forward. But you mentioned an ankle injury. So what injuries did you have? Let's talk about your most significant injury that played the biggest role on you athletically and mentally. What was your biggest injury you had to fight through as a wrestler?
I would have to say, I broke my hand my sophomore year, but I had surgery on it, and so I was only out for I think 3 weeks, maybe 4. And I missed part of that year. My knee, my junior year, I ended up getting it scoped in the middle of the year. I kept thinking we were going to try for a medical red shirt. So definitely that was most significant. I ended up getting it scoped in the middle of the year. I had a torn meniscus, and we thought going in they were going to cut it out, and I was going to be back in like a couple weeks.
Right.
Had a surgery, and they're telling me and my coach, hey, we had to repair it. He was trying to follow, do no harm type principle. And so he repaired it thinking that I could, wrestle through it. So I'm out for 6 weeks. I'm not living right, mind you, in my junior year. So I'm not recovering the way I ought to be. So, shame on me. I'm out on the sidelines, not living the, disciplined lifestyle. Wrestle, limp through the conference tournament, and then training for university nationals. I tore it again. So I end up getting another scope. This time they cut it out. Have a really, really healthy senior year, kind of lived like a monk. But then right before NCAAs, wrestling with one of my coaches, just got in a weird position and like popped it and, partially tore my MCL, 3 days before NCAAs.
Jeez.
So we're doing like super hard, intensive rehab, shooting it up with whatever, some kind of maybe horse tranquil. I don't know. Trying to get me ready for it. And I felt good going in, man, but I just wasn't 100%. And, you live and learn, and you get a lot of humble pie in this sport,
Yeah.
It's the way it is.
Yeah, it is. You get more than enough humble pies. We were talking about this the other night.
Yeah.
A little test run, man. This sport will prepare you for things you don't even know about.
I know,
so you're
man.
completely out of it, and you're 2, 3, 4, 5 years in your professional career.
Yeah, we were doing a wrestling camp. I remember it was me, Blevins, Scott Irvin, and Daniel Elliott from Gardner Webb. We're talking to all the guys, and it's like story time. Everybody's real tired. It's almost at the end of camp, and we're all talking about, our experiences with wrestling, and Scotty, go lucky, he's 3-time Oklahoma State champ, undefeated.
Yeah.
And really had a really good career in college, round of 12. And he's being lighthearted. And then everybody else starts telling their dark, nobody hardly finishes with their hand raised and your heart out. And we're looking at all these 4th through 11th graders who are just kind of like, wide-eyed, like, what the hell are these guys talking about? But we're just telling them all the horror stories about,
about what you're about to get into.
Yeah, exactly. Prepare yourself.
Yeah, be ready. Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah.
So all right, so then walk us through your senior year of college. Let's jump to your senior year. You kind of talked about your junior year with your injury.
Yeah.
Let's jump right into your senior year, your last year competing at App. Talk us through that. How'd that run?
Right off the bat, I felt like, it's my last year, going to dedicate myself again, kind of live like a monk. And I got really big after my junior year. So getting down to 25, I was probably weighing about close to 145 in the off season. So I'm focusing on my diet. I'm living with some wrestlers. And so we're kind of getting past all the shenanigans and really focusing on wrestling. And I was just kind of eager right out of the gate. We go to WVU. I lost in double overtime in the semis to a kid from West Virginia. Ended up winning it. So I finished 3rd there. Kind of my wounds. Really hating myself for already taking a loss that early. And then I'm training. We got, I can't remember the schedule completely, but then we go to Keystone Classic, end up winning that and having a really good year. And did have a minor injury. I ended up not rupturing a disc, but I had a bulging disc between C6 and C7 in my neck. And that put me out of commission. I missed, can't remember what I missed, but I came back for Reno, and that was one of my worst performances, of that year. Didn't do so hot at Reno, and then kind of just stayed on a roll, and I remember one of my good friends, Mark Fee, we were team captains and we kind of tried to hold the team together. And he really did a good job of helping me not take everything so serious. He was really, he had a reputation of being wild and, and most of those stories are probably true that you hear about him.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
He did totally dedicate himself to, he always waited till the right time to really to grind it out. And I learned a lot about trying to, not take myself so seriously, not and enjoy my last year. Cause I kept thinking, it's my last year. Everything was the last time. This is the last time I'm going to wrestle in varsity gym. This is the last time I'm going to do this. So it was good to have that kind of, that somebody to help ground me.
Yeah, I think about that too. I look back at my career as well, and there's times when you think, there's a happy medium with taking it serious and just doing everything right, and then also just trying to make it fun as well and enjoying yourself while you're in college. Like there's a happy medium to that, because going one way all the way and then going the other, I mean, it could definitely hurt you. No, I agree. That's funny you bring that up. We just had Christian Beach. He always chimes in. He says, one of my favorite clinicians at camp every year. I'm learning from Caisse since junior year of high school.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I remember him. He's a funky kid from Marvin Ridge, I think.
Yeah. Funky kid from Marvin Ridge wrestled that for his time, and he's now out in the workforce.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we always talk technique.
Yeah.
He was wrestling nerds that I always appreciated. He'd ask me, what about this? I'm doing this. Show me how to do that.
Yeah.
And he to me, he was one of those guys. Nothing against him. One of those guys you see at weigh-ins, you're like, oh yeah, I want this guy first round, and then he's kicking your ass and putting you in all these different positions. Hey, wait a minute, I was supposed to beat you. What the hell?
Yeah, man. He did the same with me when I was coaching. He'd always ask me all these questions, and then he'd start using the techniques I was showing him in matches.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was a grinder. He was a grinder for sure. He's definitely a good example of what we call this program right here. So appreciate Christian chiming in. All right, we'll keep it rolling here. What coach did you spend the most time with while your time here at App? I know Mance was the head. Who was any assistants that were in that you could roll around with?
Yeah, I scrapped a lot with one of our assistants named Joe Boynott.
Okay.
He was a former App wrestler. He was a little bigger than me. He kind of showed me how to crab ride, and so I did a lot of my top game with him. And then John Graysinger was really vocal assistant. He kind of was a mentor to me. I spent a lot of time with him, and he really kind of he ran a lot of the practices, and so I spent a lot of time with him. We had another coach named Angelo Spadaccini. He was really kind of a background, really help you with your mental game type coach. One of those guys always asking you, how's your family? Kind of keep things in perspective. So I appreciated that. And then, junior and senior year, Dr. Alan Utter came on.
Oh, wow.
So he was, how he is. He's got so much energy. He's intense. He really helped kind of balance things out for me. Because how you get used to somebody's practice and somebody's whistle and it feels mundane. We were getting into those kind of situations. And so Alan Utter comes in and he's all goofy, like you're working technique. He's got you on the whistle. And to this day, I still use it. He's saying, double legs, and he'll blow the whistle and he'll say, Utter guy, because his name's Utter. And
Oh, my goodness.
and so I still say it. Hey, Utter guy, Utter guy. And, you'd see him walking down the street, and the first thing he'd say, he's like, hey, did you get your workout in today? And you're like, damn, dude, it's 8:00. No, I didn't get my workout in. And he's like, hey, I've been up since 5:30, man. I'm like, okay, you're living the dream. I get it. So he was good to have in the room. He would do these. He conditioned the hell out of us. Like we would do these drilling sets, almost like 3-man drills, and then immediately transition into monkey rolls,
Yeah.
And that would almost break me. And I still, when we do practice and we're getting late in the season, sometimes I'll break it up and we'll do those 3-man drills with the monkey rolls. I don't think anybody really enjoys them except, the coaching staff, but it's, he was a good addition.
Heck yeah. So I had no idea. I mean, were you ever at the matches that Utter would commentate?
Yes, he was the commentator my whole career.
Really?
Yeah, and he's got a knack for it.
Yeah. Yeah, God, the things he would say, like two bowls in a china shop. That was his number one line. He's like, with the heavyweight weight class, or two donuts on the board, or if you're in the front row, watch out.
Yeah, he'd say things like, "You can catch that one down at the Boone Fire Department."
Yeah.
Or he'd say, "It looks like we got the ox in the ditch now, boys."
Oh man, dude, he cracked me up. I used to live off of Winkler Creek Road. You know Winkler Creek Road? Road that connects basically Boone to Blowing Rock with a gravel road at the end. Anyway, I'd see him just out of nowhere just running up and down that road when I was coming to and from campus, from my house to my job or to class. I mean, I had to see Dr. Utter just running up and down the dang road.
Yeah, he would put me through these hellacious workouts. Like I would meet him on the track and we do speed workouts. I swear to you, man, he'd have me puking, no lie. We would do these quarter mile intervals. Quarter mile rest, and God, he'd have me puking. He also, throughout the year, we would do these timed miles in the morning. Oh, and I loved them. I ran probably some of the fastest miles ever while I was wrestling there. And you're doing it at like 6 a.m. on the track right there on Kid Brewer Stadium.
Yeah.
So he implemented that, and I feel like that my senior year, we did do a hell of a job of progressing every, 2 workouts a week, almost throughout the entire year. Sometimes we'd go 3 mornings, lifting and, cardio. That really helped me keep my weight down, keep me focused. But yeah, he was a big part of that for sure. He would actually, my senior year, he had right before NCAA's, he kicked my ass every time we ran. He had 2 hernias, and so he had surgery. And we're running, and I think all we did was run a loop, and then after we ran the loop, we kind of ran down towards McDonald's and kind of looped back, added a little bit extra mileage on, and I'm smoking him, by the end of it. And I feel bad because he just had surgery, but I am talking trash.
Yeah.
So well, that was good.
I've been in Dr. Utter's office before, and he ran the Bear. And for those that don't know what the Bear is, it's a huge fundraiser. It's a huge run. It's like from the very bottom of 221 all the way to the summit of Grandfather Mountain. And he had a mug or a vase. I mean, the collection he had. And in order to get a mug or a vase in this run, you've got to place like, I don't know, top 30, 40, 50 out of 800 runners.
Top 10%, I think.
Yeah, and he had a mug every year, and I mean, it's a tough run. I mean, it hurts. I did it 1 year, and I mean, I threw up after that run. It's a tough run.
It's a bear, right?
But yeah, God, it's such a
yeah. So I ran that with him 1 year and ended up getting a mug. I kept trying. I knew, and I trained for it, man. And I knew the year before he was like, "Yeah, I didn't get a mug. I'm trying to go 10. I wanted to get 10." And so I think on his 9th, he didn't get a mug. So we're training, and John Graysinger's got all his buddies up from Ohio.
Yeah.
They're all into it. And at the beginning of the race, John's brother, he's saying, "Hey man, the last year I ran this, everybody started going, who, right before the race. And let's try to get that started." And I'm kind of shy about shit like that. So like, I don't know if I want to go all, barking like a dog before the race. But anyway, it started. And I'm like, okay. So we get fired up. And so the whole race, I'm like on Utter's heels. And I think as long as I can keep up with him, I could probably get a mug, and then go up those switchbacks coming up. And that's when he started getting ahead of me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't keep up with him. And I remember he was running for school board at the time. And all I could see was his t-shirt that said Utter School Board. He had this long shaggy hair and ended up, I kept thinking, I know I'm close. And so, you know how they walk you through that chute? There's people trying to cut in front of me in that chute.
Yeah.
And so, I got there and I'm looking at the boxes and she's almost done and she hands me one of those mugs. That was the last time I've ever ran it. But that was awesome.
Heck yeah. No, I love the bear run. Great fundraiser.
I'm surprised you don't do that more often, as good as a runner as you are.
Well, shoot, I did it 1 year. I mean, I got my mug. I think I ran.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I got my mug. Shoot, I got it in my cabinet right there. But yeah, I wanted to train for it, do really well, but I ended up going to bars more because I didn't have to work out anymore. So what am I doing training for a run?
Right.
I'll just go run it. And I did okay, but it hurt. I ended up throwing up at the top, and then some dude. It's actually funny. I'll tell you the story. So we're running, and we're at the very last straightaway to come up to the top. And there's this guy maybe 10 yards in front of me, not far. I'm hurting. I'm exhausted. I'm like, he can have it. But we're at the very top. We're coming up the last hill to where you're at the very top of Grandfather, right near the finish line. And then all of a sudden I hear someone say, "Catch him, Dom, catch him." And so I hear that, and I just take off sprinting after him. And it's a runner. He's in running gear. He's got the shorts that are so high, you about to see anything. He's got the running shorts on, the running jersey on, and here I am in like wrestling cage fighter shorts, and I'm neck and neck with him, and he edged me out by like 0.3. 0.3 right at the finish line. As soon as I crossed, I throw up.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was great though. It was a great experience. And then we actually, believe this, I ran it with a park ranger, and we ended up hiking Grandfather Ridge all the way back to the parkway at a car that we dropped in the dark.
After the race?
After the race.
Damn.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I don't know if I should be saying that or not, but it was really cool. And we ended up hiking the whole ridge, hiked all the way up to Grandfather, past McCrae's Peak. I mean, all the summits on that ridge, and it was pretty sweet.
Oh,
anyway,
so, gotcha. If you would have kept going in that direction, you could have came down the Profile Trail. Basically, you could have hiked into that area.
But yes, that's basically what we did. Except, did we hike further? I don't know. We dropped the car at Boone Fork parking area off the Parkway.
Dang.
Going up towards the viaduct. But anyway.
That's nuts, man. I get that kind of. I still get that runner's high when we do the Howard's Knob. I love that run. I coach with a guy, um, Mark Harris. He's the head coach at Inca. He's got the running fever, and so he's
Yeah.
always checking me out. And sometimes after camp, you know, you want to rest on that. After that second session,
Yep.
there's been times when he's like dragging me. He's like, "Hey man, let's run Howard's Knob." I'm like, "Man, I don't want to right now." And so I remember the last time I did it, him and one of our other coaches, Josh Sims, ended up running it, and he, we, Carl Elliott,
Yeah.
he's like, "Give me your keys, man." He ended up driving my truck up to the top, so he's like, "I ain't running this shit." He's like, "I'll meet you up at the top though." So that's cool, man. That's what I love about app is just going back, all the relationships that you've built,
Yeah.
getting to enjoy the campus and the lifestyle in the summer.
Yeah, you can't beat the summertime in that. But heck, next time camps are back to normal, let me know when you guys run Howard's Knob. I'll run it with you as long as it's not too early in the morning.
No, we can't do it too early.
Yeah, no, we can't. But again, we're talking with Rich Caisse here. Share the video. Let's get more people on here. We got about 15 minutes left. We had a David Brunson chime in. He said, "This is awesome. What up, Rich?"
All right, that's my homeboy, man. He was from Collins Hill. He wrestled at App.
Heck yeah. Glad you're tuning in, David. Glad you're tuning in, man. Again, if anybody's got questions, feel free to put them in the chat if you got a question for Rich or in general. But, yeah, we'll move on here. So what was your favorite tournament trip of your career? Freshman to senior year, your best trip you ever had?
Man, for the right reasons, I would have to say Buffalo. We went there, I think 2 or 3 years in a row near Christmas. And so every year we got to see, heavy snow. We got to see Niagara Falls. We got to go to Canada and, spend some money and the touristy Canadian thing.
Yeah.
And, and great wrestling. And I guess for the bad reasons, there used to be a tournament in South Florida called Sunshine Open. And I loved that tournament in high school. That was where you got to see all the state champs from different classifications, and I'd never won that till my senior year. And I ended up beating like 3 state champs back to back to win that tournament. And when we went back when I was in college, oh man, it's like I remember we ended up staying with Mark Fee and his family, and the rest of the team. Like we kind of hung out at his house for a while after the tournament, and the rest of the team went back, and we ended up staying and kind of driving. And it was like the year 2000, so it was 99 New Year's Eve. So we wrestled that year, New Year's Eve, and then lived it up and partied like it's, I guess, 1999. And that was fun, man. That was a good trip.
Yeah.
But we ended up watching the ball drop for the year 2000 with some of my wrestling buddies. That was cool.
Man, heck yeah. That's awesome. That's an awesome trip.
Yeah.
Well, we just had a Enco wrestling sharer chime in, says the Facebook Live audience must hear about Rich Caisse in December 2020 in the latest Caisse family news.
Oh, that's right. So we're expecting, Waylon just turned 4, my son, and Lindsay and I are expecting a girl in March. So that's a new chapter to the family. It's gonna be It's gonna be a game changer.
Heck yeah, man. Well, congrats on that. Glad Enco Wrestling asked the question. That's good. That's good stuff. That's the stuff we want to talk about here. All right, so then we'll move on from your most memorable trip to your most memorable individual match. What match, when you think about in your head back in your career stands out to you most?
Probably wrestling against this kid from Carolina, Chris Rodriguez, 1 or 2 time All-American from Carolina. He ended up, he was a year younger than me. He beat me in the Sunshine Open when he was a senior in high school and I was a freshman in college. So that was pretty embarrassing.
Yeah.
Again at the Carolina Open. He went to Michigan and then ended up transferring to Carolina. And he's a Georgia kid, wrestler. So I think he beat me 2 or 3 times in my career. We built the Convocation Center my senior year of college. We have like a damn blizzard come through Boone, and we think we may have to cancel this match. And I mean, I think weigh-ins may have been at 8, match at 9, or 9 and then 10. So we're early as hell on a Saturday in the Convocation Center. First time ever at wrestling. And at the time, you could draw a weight class or you could just elect to, start at a weight. And so this was one of our last dual meets. It actually may have been the last dual meet of the year. And so I know I'm wrestling this kid, and we're getting hyped up, and we didn't like Carolina at all. Ever since I was a freshman, I kind of was bred to hate them.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I go out and we're scrapping, and I know he's got the thing that always messed me up was he's got a really good cement mixer. So every time I'm trying to hit my low single or trying to get it on his legs, he would lock up that cement mixer, and he can almost always score on it. So I was trying to be real calculated with my shots, and really probably a boring calculated match until the third period when I'm trying to ride him for the win. In the last minute, he reverses me. I try to get an escape. I think I ended up getting an escape to put it into overtime. We go in overtime, and I take him down with a single in the first 15 seconds.
Heck yeah, man.
First match right out of the gate. First time we were ever wrestling in the Convocation Center. It's like perfect Appalachian conditions, almost like a whiteout outside. We ended up losing the 2 times that we wrestled. I think we lost both times to Carolina. Same score, 24-12. One of those years, John Mark was wrestling for them.
Really?
Yeah, he was wrestling 49. And this may have been the biggest crowd we've ever had, not to date, obviously, because the crowds are getting pretty insane. But from what I've seen all in Varsity Gym, that was one of the biggest crowds we've had. And we ended up winning the first 3 matches right out of the gate, 25, 33, 41. And so me, Travis, and Jeremy rattled off 3 wins. So we're up already big, and Jeremy Hart goes out there, and he's wrestling against the kid who beat me my freshman year at 125. He's up at 49, Davey Blake. And so him and Davey are scrapping, and he catches Davey in the first period and sticks him. So I realized why the crowd was so big, because the crowd erupted for John Mark. And I'm like, oh. So all these Avery County, folks were in to watch John Mark wrestle. But I mean, the crowd was still huge. It was a good experience, and they ended up beating us. That was the first time I think we'd ever wrestled them in a duel. And we lost 24-12 that match too. So he ended up changing the momentum. Yeah. So.
Dang, man. That's crazy. I have never heard that.
Yeah, he was a senior when I was a sophomore. And I knew of him because we had, one of our Florida greats was Jared Frayer. And when Jared Frayer was a senior, John Mark was a 4-time. We knew he was probably going to have to wrestle John Mark at senior nationals. And at the time, senior nationals was the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
When I was in high school, there was no junior, freshman. It was all seniors. And so it was and you had to get first or second in state to get your invite to go.
Wow.
We know Jared Frayer, one of our best wrestlers, probably going to have to wrestle John Mark Bentley. Jared Frayer ended up he's up 3-1 in the semis and getting high on legs and got defensively pinned in the semis. And I think John Mark ended up kicking this dude's butt in the finals. So, that's my first, like, I didn't know anything about him other than being a 4-time champ in North Carolina, and on top of being a 4-time champ, I'm thinking Freier's going to, beat him. He ends up, winning nationals as well. So stellar career for him to cap that off.
Yeah. Yeah. We just looking at the live feed here, a Connie Wheeler Hannah just trying to say, congratulations, coach. Pink singlets are in your future. and then Brandon Burleson chimed in and said all of Avery County was at that match that you were just talking about. So.
Okay, right on.
That's
that
great,
was
man.
That was nuts. I remember, Utter he was talking it up. He's like, only a stone's throw away from Avery County, John Mark.
Yeah, he would do that one. Yeah, it's funny, man. I was golfing with Coach Bentley not too long ago. Ran into one of his buddies from high school, and he just kept talking about how big of a stud John Mark was. Just how big of a stud he was. I kept calling John Mark a stud. So that's
we heard some legends of him getting in fights with like his heavyweight Stacy Clark, who was like a gigantic human being. John Mark going after him. Which was
we gotta make a new nickname for Coach Bentley. We gotta change his Twitter handles and stuff to just stud. So. Again, talking with Rich Caisse here. We got about 5-10 minutes left in this episode. So ask any last minute questions, share the video, get a few more followers in here for the last few minutes of this episode. But we'll finish on here with some more questions. So the facilities. So you were back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and yep. I know you come to camp, and you're a clinician at the App Wrestling camps every summer. I mean, heck, I remember when you were a clinician, when I was a wrestling staff member, and you would even come and work out with me, which I really appreciated.
Yeah,
but
man.
You've seen the transition from facilities and what we have now to what we used to have when you were here. So talk us through that. What were the facilities like when you were here compared to now with the locker room and the wrestling room?
Man, so the wrestling space was pretty similar. Like we wrestled where the wrestling room is now, but it's not nearly as long. They've done awesome renovations. They've done a hell of a job with that. And so we started there, and I remember before they had all the regulations about temperature, we had all these pipes. And we would turn all the heat on, and then you could take off like you could take the knob off, and so you couldn't like turn down the heat. Our coaches would get all pissed because and we're sweating, and it's probably the hottest room on the planet. The mats are all soft, and I really enjoyed kind of wrestling in that dungeon. We didn't have a team locker room until my senior year. We ended up having like a little space do you remember Kirk Gym where the swimming pool was?
I've heard about Broomkirk, but I've never seen it. No, but I've heard about it.
Okay. It's like that when you're, it's like, it's in the back area of the varsity gym. That's where we had our locker room. And a public space. So it was kind of awkward when you're after practice, you're showering and there's people coming in and out to go to the pool, and we ended up getting a locker room my senior year. It's kind of where the training room, remember where there was a training room where there was like an ice machine back there?
Yeah.
We had that space for lockers, and that was
goodness.
But it was like a tiny space, but we felt like kings because we had our own lockers, and we had kind of a stationary place, and we wouldn't have random people walking through our post-practice shower time.
Man, that's crazy.
I know. And then to see what and that was all under Man. So Man started getting us up to speed. And then, John Mark took over, I don't even know when, late 2000s, 2006 maybe. he immediately made an impact, started getting all the facilities up to date. And so now when I go back year after year and seeing what you guys have done, it's been incredible. I think you reached out to me, some of my alumni, and I gotta thank Scott Irvin. Let him outdo me. He ended up getting a locker sponsorship. So
Yeah.
and so he kept telling me, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting a locker." I'm like, "What?" So I looked up and I'm like, "Damn, dude, high roller." So I ended up, it's like, okay, John Mark told me, or maybe you were asking me about it. You're like, "Yeah, I think there's 5 lockers left." I'm thinking like, yeah, I'll probably not do that, but ended up Scott Irvin talked me into doing it. So I was paying $100 a month, and I finally paid my last $100.
Heck yeah, Rich. That's awesome, man. Yeah, we're shoot, the most recent locker sponsor was from a Vic Schoolfield, who was a wrestler from back in the day, and I think we've got a couple left that need some sponsors. So there's a plug right there. If anybody wants their own sponsorship in the locker room, feel free to reach out to us. We'll make it happen. You get your own plate. But yeah, Rich, like I said, lifelong supporter of the program, man. That goes a long way, sponsoring a locker.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it.
We just had David Brunson just chimed in. He said being on the same practice schedule as the volleyball girls was the best, bro. And then he said Mark Fee married one of them, which, yeah, he did. That's right. I remember meeting her as well when he was in the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Right
so
on.
heck yeah. So again, this will be our last question. If anybody's got some last second questions, I might get to them. But the last question I ask everybody, and I always give it to you to prepare because it could catch you off guard, but what's one thing you hope people will remember you for while wrestling at App, Rich?
Yeah, I thought about it, man. I think I want to be remembered for a guy who was a vocal leader who tried to keep a balance between having fun, and working hard. And I still tell, I tell Waylon that all the time, my son, that's, the 2 most important things: hard work, have fun, don't take it too serious. So I want to be remembered as somebody who kind of exemplified that. And I hope that I did, because it's not a bunch of BS. I tried to live that, tried to lifestyle, but also have a good time.
Well said, Rich. Well said, man. And yeah, and again, like I said, I appreciate, everything that you still do for this program, from making your donations and then coming back and helping out at wrestling camps, not just being a clinician, but working out with the lightweight, the younger guys during practice in between sessions. So we appreciate you, man. We really
I appreciate you. That you're doing a lot for the sport, and I know it's hard being in a fundraising position now. During this time, it's hard to ask people. Asking people for money, basically. It's hard to do that. So
it is. But here's a funny little lesson I can share. This is something that I learned. So our athletic director, Doug Gillen, I was just in his office talking with him one day, and this is he compared fundraising to wrestling, because he used to work at Missouri before he was an athletic director at App, and he told me he's like, "Hey, Jaden Cox?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know Jaden. The national champ from Missouri. Of course I know Jaden." He's like, "Well, Jaden would have missed 100% of the shots he never took." And, Gillen said, you'll miss 100% of the asks you never make. So it's right just, it's funny how the sport, again, like we mentioned at the beginning, translates into your life in more ways than one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, again, thanks for listening. Again, for everybody that's tuned in, this is The Grind. We'd like to thank all of our Patreons, Danny and Sharon, Sava, John, Billy, and our first Patreon, Jesse. If you're not a Patreon, we're going to go ahead and put it in the live feed here. The link will be in there for you to join. All of this money goes right back to the wrestling program to help support all of its needs. So please consider joining. The memberships are not big at all. It's just small donations every month, where you get special access to what the grind is doing. Again, if you're interested, it'll be in the live chat. We will also be streaming the inter squad matches December 18th live, so please stay tuned for some more information coming out about that. We'll be streaming hopefully all the matches that App State Wrestling does this year, especially right now with COVID. If you're, I don't know what our fan attendance is going to be. Probably won't be a lot, won't be any. But we're going to be streaming these matches, so please tune in on the grind for those matches. Rich, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We really do appreciate it. Appreciate all you do for the program. That's all we got. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. And follow us next Monday for our next App alum on the grind. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This has been a production by Yosef Media.